what LeBron has done over his career?
Oh, it was great. I was happy to get picked. To his team, wish we could have got the win, but I've been firsthand witness to a lot of his great accomplishments. I was there when he was passing a lot of guys on Cleveland, and then obviously us being competitors, it only made the game a lot better. And I think we've learned a lot from one another, and just wish him nothing but the best.
Kyrie Irving just said something on a live stream that has flipped the entire NBA upside down. And the scariest part about it is that he did not yell it. He did not post a long, angry caption. He did not go on some big media tour to make headlines. He said it calmly, quietly, almost like a man who already knows exactly how this story is going to end, because he has already lived through it himself. He looked into the camera and he said, "I warned my brother when he went to the Lakers. You can never be safe around that snake." Now read that sentence one more time, because once you really understand what Kyrie Irving is talking about, you are never going to look at LeBron James, the Lakers, or the entire NBA system the same way ever again. This is not just a basketball story. This is a warning, and the person being warned is Luka Dončić. Let me set the stage for you so you understand exactly why this moment hit the way it did. Luka Dončić is now a Laker. He got traded in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. with no warning, no phone call, no conversation. He literally got a notification on his phone telling him that his entire life was being packed up and shipped across the country. He did not ask for the trade. He did not see it coming. One minute he was in Dallas building something special, and the next minute he was being moved like a piece on a chessboard. And the person he was being moved to play alongside was the most powerful, most protected, and most politically connected athlete in the history of professional sports, LeBron James. Now, on the surface, people looked at this trade and said, wow, Luka and LeBron together, that is going to be amazing. But Kyrie Irving looked at it and said something completely different. He said that his brother was walking into a trap. And you have to understand who Kyrie Irving is to really feel the weight of this warning. Kyrie is not some random guy on the internet making up conspiracy theories. Kyrie is a former teammate of LeBron James. He played with LeBron in Cleveland for 3 years. He won a championship with LeBron. He hit the biggest shot in Cleveland Cavaliers history to beat the Golden State Warriors in 2016. And then, at the peak of his career, he demanded a trade out of Cleveland just to get away from LeBron. He chose to leave his own team, his own city, his own championship situation, because whatever was happening behind closed doors was that bad. So when Kyrie Irving says he is grieving for Luka Dončić, when he says Luka is walking into something dangerous, you better believe he knows exactly what he is talking about. This is not guessing. This is not trolling. This is a man who lived inside that system and barely made it out. Now let me explain why Kyrie used the word grieving, because that word choice matters a lot. Grieving is not a word you use when a friend changes jobs or moves to a new city. Grieving is a word you use when something has died, when something is lost, when you know in your heart that the person you knew before is not going to be the same person after. And that is exactly how Kyrie feels about Luka going to the Lakers. He sees Luka as a brother, a guy he spent years playing alongside, a guy he built a real friendship with away from basketball. And when that trade went through at 2 a.m, Kyrie did not post a simple good luck message like most teammates would. He did not send a nice tweet. He went on stream and he spoke from the heart about losing his brother to a system that he knew was going to try to break him down piece by piece. That is not a normal reaction. That is the reaction of someone who has seen this movie before and knows how it ends. So let us go back to 2014 because that is where this whole pattern really started. Kyrie Irving was 22 years old, and he was the star of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He had just won the Rookie of the Year award a few years before. He had handles that did not make sense for a human being. He could score from anywhere on the court. He had no drama, no ego problems, no baggage. He was just a young kid with a basketball and a dream. And then LeBron James decided to leave the Miami Heat and come back to Cleveland. And the moment he walked through that door, the entire energy of the team changed. Everything shifted. Kyrie went from being the face of the franchise to being the second option overnight. And that was just the beginning. Because here is where things got ugly. LeBron started calling Kyrie a kid in front of reporters. Think about that for a second. Kyrie was a grown professional athlete, a starter in the NBA, an all-star, and his own teammate was calling him a kid during press conferences. That is not mentorship. That is not leadership. That is a power move. That is a man publicly reminding another man where he stands in the hierarchy. And then there was the on-court stuff. LeBron would scream at Kyrie during games like he was correcting a child. He would yell at him in front of the entire arena, in front of the cameras, in front of the fans, not pulled aside for a private conversation, not talked to during a timeout like a real leader would do, screamed at like Kyrie owed him something. And the worst part is that fans would watch it and say, that is leadership. That is a veteran showing a young player how to play. But behind the scenes, Kyrie knew what it really was. It was a power grab, plain and simple. According to reports that came out later, the problem went way deeper than basketball. There were rumors that LeBron tried to bring Kyrie into his outside circles, the Hollywood world, the entertainment industry, the celebrity network, the events where your attendance is basically a signal that you belong to something bigger than the game. And Kyrie said no. He wanted to play basketball, go home, raise his kids, and live his life in peace. He did not want to be part of any machine. He did not want to be controlled. And the moment LeBron realized that he could not own Kyrie, everything changed. The media that had been writing positive stories about Kyrie started writing different ones. Suddenly he was moody. Suddenly he was unstable. Suddenly he was a locker room problem. Suddenly every interesting thing he said got turned into evidence that something was wrong with him. And LeBron never had to say a word publicly. The machine did all the work for him. That is what Kyrie is trying to warn Luka Dončić about right now. That exact same machine is already activating around Luka, and you can see it happening in real time if you know what to look for. Luka got to the Lakers and started playing out of his mind. He was dropping 60-point games. He was breaking Kobe Bryant's records at the arena in Los Angeles. He was putting up numbers that made it impossible to talk about the Lakers without his name being the first one mentioned. And then, slowly but surely, the wheels started coming off. The MVP rankings started quietly dropping him, even though his numbers were historic. League suspensions started showing up out of nowhere for small technical things that nobody could really explain. The media narrative started shifting. Suddenly Luka was hard to play with. Suddenly he did not play defense. Suddenly he was a problem in the locker room. Suddenly his personal life was leaking into the press in ways that benefited one side and hurt another. And here is the most important part. Multiple people in Los Angeles have suggested that the public relations team connected to LeBron's business empire was not sitting back and letting all of this happen naturally. They have suggested that the leaks about Luka's personal life, including his breakup and his custody situation, were not accidental. They were messages. They were warnings. They were telling Luka in a language he would understand that if he did not fall in line, the damage would keep coming. That is the game that is being played. And it is being played against a 26-year-old kid from Slovenia who just wanted to win basketball games. Now, the specific thing that Luka refused to do is honestly the most disrespectful ask I have ever heard of in professional basketball. LeBron James wanted Luka Dončić to basically be a mentor and a babysitter for Bronny James. Not just a teammate, not just a friendly veteran giving occasional advice, a dedicated developmental resource, someone whose practice hours, whose energy, whose focus, and whose time would be redirected toward making a rookie who averages around 2 points per game look better than he actually is. Let that settle in for a moment. This is a 5-time All-NBA player in the absolute prime of his career. A 26-year-old who is legitimately one of the 3 best basketball players on the entire planet. And he is being asked to spend his best years as a personal tutor for another man's son. A son who, let us be completely honest, is only on an NBA roster in the first place because his last name happens to be James. Could you ever imagine Kobe Bryant in his late 20s being asked to babysit a teammate's kid? Could you imagine Michael Jordan reshaping his whole game to make a teammate's family member look better? Those guys wanted to destroy their competition. They wanted to win rings. They wanted to be remembered as the greatest ever. They did not take time out of their prime to build personal legacy projects for other people's children. But that is exactly what Luka was asked to do. And when he said no, which any self-respecting superstar would do, the punishment started immediately. And the punishment is happening in real time, right in front of all of us, and most people do not even see it. Watch the Lakers games carefully, and you will see it. The faked ankle injury in a late-game moment when Luka was positioned to take the big shot and be the hero. The body language on the court that is impossible to ignore if you have actually watched the games. LeBron walking right past Luka's extended hand like it is not even there, like Luka is invisible, like he does not exist. These are not small things. These are messages being sent in public. And the message is very clear. If you will not play your role in my story, I will write you out of it, and I will make sure you look like the problem. And then there is the MVP silence, which might be the most telling thing of all. LeBron James has spent his entire career going to bat for his teammates in the media. He campaigned for Anthony Davis to win Defensive Player of the Year. He constantly hyped up role players on social media to build his reputation as a selfless leader. He has given more post-game interviews talking about other people's games than most players give in their entire careers put together. But Luka Dončić, his teammate, is currently one of the most statistically dominant players in the entire league and has a legitimate case for MVP. And LeBron has said absolutely nothing. Not one tweet, not one Instagram story, not one mention in a press conference. The silence is so loud and so deliberate that even Charles Barkley called LeBron out directly on national television for staying on the roster, while Luka does all the heavy lifting. The reason for that silence is actually really simple and really brutal when you understand it. If Luka Dončić wins the MVP award while playing on LeBron's team, it creates a question that LeBron cannot answer without his entire legacy taking damage. How can you claim to be the greatest of all time if the best player on your own team is not you? How can you sit at the top of the throne when the guy playing next to you is clearly more impactful, more dangerous in crunch time, and putting up better numbers? Luka winning that trophy would not just make LeBron look old, it would make him look completely irrelevant. And that is the one thing the entire machine around him cannot allow to happen. So the only option is to stay quiet, to not promote Luka, to not push his MVP case, and to hope that other players get the award instead. Now let us go back to Kyrie for a second because this is where it all comes together. When Luka got traded to LA, Kyrie did not just post a generic good luck message. He said something that should have made every single basketball fan stop and think. He said that LeBron does not play basketball. He said LeBron plays the room. He said that he learned from the Los Angeles underworld that if you control the environment, you control the man. He said that if you cannot beat someone, you bring them into your house and make them serve you. Those are not the words of a random hater. Those are not the words of someone running his mouth. Those are the words of a man who has first-hand experience with exactly what he is describing. That is someone telling you exactly what they went through, in language so precise that you cannot deny it. And if you still are not sure whether Kyrie is right, just look at the long list of stars who have been brought into LeBron's orbit over the years and come out the other side as shells of who they used to be. Kevin Love was averaging 26 points and 13 rebounds in Minnesota. He was one of the most dominant power forwards in the league. He was a monster. He went to Cleveland to join LeBron, and within 1 year he became a corner three shooter who only touched the ball when LeBron decided to pass it to him. And then, just to make sure the point landed, LeBron publicly tweeted at him to fit in and not fit out. He later confirmed in a press conference that the tweet was aimed at Kevin Love directly. That is not leadership. That is humiliation with extra steps. That is a man publicly telling his teammate to know his place. Chris Bosh gave up his entire offensive identity to play with LeBron in Miami. He was a legitimate 24-point-per-game scorer, a go-to option in Toronto, a guy who could carry a team. And he took all of that, threw it away, and restructured his whole game around making LeBron comfortable. By the time his career ended, fans and media members were talking about Chris Bosh like he had always been a defensive specialist. They completely erased who he actually was as a player. And then there was Anthony Davis, the guy who was supposed to be the brother, the guy who was supposed to be protected forever, the guy who brought LeBron a championship in 2020. By the time the trade deadline came around last year, league sources were already reporting that LeBron had been scouting replacements for Davis the moment his production dipped even a little bit. Jeff Teague, who was inside those Lakers locker rooms, came out publicly and said that the grief LeBron performed when teammates got traded was exactly that, a performance. He said the search for the next piece was already happening before the trade even went down. The pattern is always the same. Find an alpha player. Bring him in under the banner of mentorship, legacy, and brotherhood. Slowly strip his identity away until he only exists to serve the system. And the moment his usefulness starts to fade, start engineering the exit. Kevin Love, Chris Bosh, Anthony Davis, even Kyrie Irving himself. All of them came in as stars. All of them came out different. All of them were consumed by the same machine. But here is the thing about Luka Dončić that makes this situation different. Luka is not built to be Kevin Love. Luka is not going to disappear into someone else's system. He is too proud. He is too skilled. He is too aware of who he is and what he is capable of. He is a 5-time All-NBA player who led his country to major international basketball accomplishments. He took the Dallas Mavericks to the NBA Finals by himself. He is not the kind of guy who is going to sit quietly while his role gets reduced and his legacy gets minimized. And that is exactly why Kyrie's warning matters so much right now. Because if Luka refuses to bend, if he refuses to play the role that the machine wants him to play, the attacks are only going to get worse. The media narratives will get meaner, the leaks will get more personal, the suspensions will get more frequent. That is how this works. The numbers this season already tell the whole story without needing any conspiracy theories. The Los Angeles Lakers record when Luka plays without LeBron on the floor is 9 wins and 2 losses. 9-2. That is an elite winning percentage. When LeBron is actually out there with him, the dynamics shift. The ball movement changes, the hierarchy reasserts itself, the entire offense starts running through an older player instead of the younger one in his prime. But when Luka is allowed to just be Luka, when he is allowed to run the team